Good evening. Welcome to the Wyndham-Raymond School District Board of Directors meeting. It is Wednesday, March 4th, 2026 at 6 p.m. We're in the Wyndham High School auditorium. May I have a roll call, please?
Sue Accardi.
Here.
Jessica Bridges.
Here.
Jody Carroll.
Here.
Marge Gavoni.
Here.
Matthew Irving. Here. Joe Kellner.
Here.
Grace Levitt.
Here.
Christina Small.
Here.
Ginny Woodman.
Here.
Maggie Soul.
Please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance. Item 4 is agenda approval. May I have a motion, please?
I move to accept the agenda as presented.
Second. Board discussion? All those in favor? Motion carries. Next item, executive session. May I have a motion, please?
I move to approve going into executive session to consider the possible expulsion of a student pursuant to 1 MRSA subsection 405(6)(b).
Second.
All those in favor? Motion carries. We are in executive session. All right, we have returned from executive session.
I move that the board determines the following: that the student's actions were deliberately disobedient, that the removal of the student is necessary for the peace and usefulness of the school, that based on these facts, the board hereby expels the student effective immediately for an indefinite period of time, and that the superintendent notify the student and their parents of this action in writing with a copy of these written findings of fact and conclusions. If the student is expelled for an indefinite period of time, a reentry plan will be prepared by the superintendent in consultation with the student and their family. The parents and student have the right to request readmission pursuant to law.
Second.
All those in favor? Motion carries. Student is expelled. Next item is public input. The purpose of public input is to provide an opportunity for the public to express their interests, concerns, and suggestions related to matters under consideration by the board. As this is not a public forum, the board will hear public comments without engaging in discussion or offering responses. Speakers must state their first and last name and town of residence before beginning their comments. Each person has up to 3 minutes to speak, provided that they maintain common decency and decorum. To protect the privacy, confidentiality, and due process rights of students and staff, comments concerning individual students or the job performance or conduct of school employees, whether positive or negative, will not be heard at this meeting. Resolution may be sought through the superintendent's office as appropriate. The chair maintains the authority to stop any comments that violate these rules. For a full list of the rules, refer to Board Policy BEDH, Public Participation at Board Meetings, copies of which are available at the entrance of this meeting room. Would anybody like to speak? All right, seeing none, I'm going to close public input and we will move on to superintendent's report.
Good evening, everyone. Welcome to the first of several meetings focused on the budget. And also just want to remind the public that for those individuals who are interested in following along on the budget, first of all, this year in the agenda, hyperlinked in every single week, is included a direct connection to the cost center so that you can see exactly the lines that the board's going through. And when the board references page 35 out of 169, you have the exact same pages on your digital copy that you can go ahead and you can review as well at home for those who are interested. Also, if anyone is interested in looking at my presentation last week for the superintendent's recommended budget, that is on the website. It was posted there at the end of last week. So if anyone's interested in going through, and then again, if anyone has questions or wants to meet and discuss individual questions of the budget, more than happy to set up times with people from the community if they want to come through and learn more about the RSU 14 budget. A couple of kind of good news things to share. So first of all, Corey Brackett, who is one of our seniors, won the state level American Legion oratorical competition in Waterville. She had won the regional competition earlier in the month, and her speech was on the meaning of the Constitution. And so she will have the opportunity to represent Wyndham High School in the state of Maine at the national competition in Michigan later this spring. So congratulations to Corey. Huge honor, and especially to be able to do an oratorical speech like that and to be able to share your ideas. Just a great representation of Wyndham High School. She's one of our chamber singers. She was also Pinocchio last year in Shrek. So congratulations on that. Also want to remind the public that Wyndham High School is presenting Everyman, which is a one-act play, and our students at Wyndham High School are entering the main one-act competition. They have their regional at South Portland High School this coming Saturday at 2 p.m., but they will also be doing a preview show this Friday night here in the Wyndham High School auditorium at 6:30. March 5th, so that would be Thursday. Thank you. So tomorrow night, they will be doing a preview show at 6:30 here in the auditorium, and then the 7th, which would be Saturday, at 2 o'clock at South Portland High School. Also, just for board members, if you're not aware, there's going to be some discussion in Augusta over the next couple weeks on the EPS formula and some proposed changes, which may or may not result in additional subsidy for RSU 14. I think the one item in proposed changes that I know I have the most interest in is adjustments to the regional index. And regional index, simply put, is that we know that in certain parts of the state, it's the cost of living is far more expensive than other parts. And so salaries are often adjusted. And so as being in one of the more expensive parts of the state for teachers and teacher salaries and making sure that we remain competitive, be interested to see how that might possibly apply to us. There's also some changes proposed for transportation and the amount that is actually back to districts. And then the last piece is high cost special ed and out of district placements for special ed. And we don't quite know how all these will impact us. So a lot of things happening. There's interest in the legislature to take a look at this and whether or not it's implemented this year. If it does take hold, it may mean additional subsidy. And again, I go back to last week, which is the budget we start with on February 25th is not the budget that you end with in April. And we know that that changes over time. Lastly, the Ed Committee did have a chance to take a look at bar funding last week, because we know that we've been the beneficiary of a grant in 3 different schools over the last couple of years. There's some interest in the legislative committees to continue to fund some of that, which again will have a direct impact because in our budget we've included that now as local costs to replicate that. And so the hope is that maybe some of that will go through. So we'll keep the board informed as these things go forward. Tomorrow morning I have an informational session on EPS and hopefully to learn a little bit more about what the potential impact might be going forward. The last thing I want to share, and it was actually, I'll be handing these out at the end of the meeting. It was actually a suggestion from Joe at the finance meeting yesterday about our debt and how our debt is categorized in the budget. In doing, Stacy had some great ideas on how to capture this. It's not something we'll capture in this year's budget because you have your budget books. But next year we'll be creating a director in the budget books, which will simply be debt. And so it will cover major capital, which is in Christine's budget. It will cover transportation debts with the bus leases, van leases, technology with copiers, and then Bill's budget with HVAC, so that the board will have one cost center. You won't have to flip through all the different pieces, and that will allow you then to see across the district. But I do have copies of that, what it might possibly look like, that I'll hand out a little bit later on, and then something you kind of a one-page cheat sheet on some of our major capital pieces across the district. So it was a great suggestion, and looks like we'll make it go forward for next year's budget.
Okay, our student rep could not be with us tonight, so we're going to move on to board roundtable. Would anybody like to share? Grace.
I would just say that you did all get a message about the Maine School Board Association Executive Board meeting Saturday, and we did hear quite an extensive overview of some of the potential changes to EPS then. I listened to the Education Committee yesterday afternoon for as long as I could, which wasn't the entire time, but a good length of it, and some questions that were asked by the Education Committee. So, again, really interesting what changes may or may not be occurring and when they may take place as well. To keep an eye on that. So, glad to answer any questions. You all got the email on Monday, and just glad to answer any questions if I can. Thanks.
Thanks for attending that, Grace. Anyone else? Okay, we can move on to committee reports. Finance?
So good evening. Finance met yesterday in the superintendent's conference room. We met from 9:30 to 2 o'clock. And again, we're trying something new this year, spending some time in that committee with the cost center leaders to really drill down into the line item specific pieces of individual budgets and help those cost center leaders to streamline their presentation to us. Get some of those back and forth questions out of the way first so we have the answers for the full board when they're here as well. Just to run through, we met with technology, athletics, facilities, adult ed, transportation, nutrition, high school, and the 2 middle schools, and we ended on time. So it was a marathon session, but I personally found it incredibly valuable. I don't think any of those administrators are here, but I certainly want to thank every one of them for taking time out of their day and agreeing to do an extra budget session. I hope they found it helpful. I certainly did. I also want to say, it continues to be a theme as we look through this budget and what's presented to us. The care that's been taken to try to make this budget impact as minimal as possible is really incredible. Each administrator that we've met with so far, and we know the others that we haven't met with, has done the same and gone through their budgets really with a fine-tooth comb to pull out anything they possibly could to manage expense increases. The expense increases you're going to see tonight and through the rest of the cost center presentations are predominantly related to health insurance and salary and wage increase. There's really nothing else. There's actually a net decrease, if I did my math right, and Chris, you can check me, is a net decrease of 10.35 positions, at least in the last count. A lot of those, I will note, were unfilled, but they were still in the budget as an expense. So that's a tremendous favorable impact. But the projected health insurance increase, which could be upwards of 14%. And then the built-in salary and wage increases we have just to stay competitive with area districts, which are part of our contract as well, really push in the other direction. So I will generally leave it at that. Again, just saying thank you to all those cost center leaders, also to the work Stacey Webster does, which is just unbelievable in preparing this budget material. And still, I continue to be blown away, Chris, that she can close a month 3 days after the end. So for anybody that does accounting, that's incredible. And of course, Chris, to you and your team. So thank you.
Facilities?
Facilities has not met, but we do have a meeting March 9th, and this will be our joint meeting with the Finance Committee. So facilities finance meeting, it's at 2:30 in central office. We're going to discuss, and Bill Hansen will be there also. We're going to discuss the capital reserve plan and the implications of that on the budget.
Policy?
So policy has not met yet either, but we're going to meet on this coming Monday at 9:30, and our agenda is online under the committees on RSU 14's website, and we're going to continue our work in immunization, policy JLCB, and we will also look at JLCC with communicable diseases, KFD, which is our community use of school facilities and grounds, and GPO, family care leave.
Thank you. Curriculum?
We have not met.
I just want to add one thing that for those of you who are not necessarily aware of this, except for the invitation, Chris is going to be sending out an agenda before Monday for our joint meeting.
Okay, next item, report of the secretary. May I have a motion, please?
I move to approve the minutes of the February 25th, 2026 meeting.
Second.
Board discussion? All right, just this afternoon, I noticed if you have a, what? If you have a printed copy under superintendent's report, the first bullet was an incomplete sentence. So if you have a digital copy, I changed it So it says Superintendent Howell reports out on weather impacts to school scheduling. So I went back and I watched the meeting video just so I could complete that sentence. And then because I was listening to it, I noticed the agenda approval. It's really not consequential, but Sue had said I moved to adopt the agenda. So I changed the word. So it would be the word that she said and not what was written. So just for full disclosure, before you vote on this, I did make those changes. If you're looking at a digital copy, they're already in there. But if anybody with a printed copy may not have noticed that. So if there's any concerns, I'm sure Christine could change it super fast, but I didn't think it was consequential. Okay. All those in favor? Motion carries. Okay, we have made it to our first set of 18 cost center presentations. And our first one is our very own Mr. Howell. Take it away.
So for just a reminder for board members, your budget books have quite a bit of information that's shared with them. For the public, most of what you're going to see for a budget book is actually just a continuous stream of all the different budget pages. All of our budgets are broken down by directors, and directors could either be principals or they could be directors of individual programs. And the first budget that we're going to be covering tonight, which is actually the smallest of the budgets as far as number of pages, is for Director 10, which is the superintendent of schools. Within my budget, we have 2 employees, myself and Kim, who is my assistant. And then anything that you see within here is related to our benefits and also to local travel for meetings that I need to attend, some supplies, books, periodicals, and then dues, fees, and memberships for my professional memberships and my inclusion and main school management. So the only change in my budget is a reduction of $1,800 in local travel. And that's just largely due to, over the last couple of years, more and more meetings that may have required travel to Augusta are now happening via Zoom. And so less time on the road, less time doing traveling, and basically sitting in my office and sitting in front of a screen and having conversations with my colleagues statewide. And other than that, everything that's here is either related to membership changes or changes that would be projected for either health insurance or benefits.
Questions for Mr. Howell? Go ahead, Sue. Can you turn on your mic? Perhaps get a little closer. Thank you.
The workers' comp cost is like cut in half. Is that, am I reading that wrong? Or?
No, it's just a reduction in what actual benefit costs were, somewhere either between Kim or me.
Where do we get our workers' comp from? The
MEMIC is
okay.
Yep, MEMIC is our supplier or our broker for workers' comp.
Other questions? All right, I think you're off the hook. Next up is Mrs. Frost-Barton-A.
Good evening. So you will notice, I tried to pull out the highlights here. We're going to start with some decreases this evening. In other professional services, that's really tied to some remaining funds that were in there for middle school planning, but we're beyond some of that work. That's the first reduction of $15,000, and then you'll see the reduction in professional, technical, legal. That's associated with our legal fees. Just looking at the past couple of years, we felt we could reduce by $20,000 in that area. The remaining items will be increases that I'll try to break down and happy to answer questions. So we'll start, you see this every year, but the property and liability insurance increase, you're going to see that across all cost centers. Stacy does build in 15% as a placeholder, and we will keep you abreast as more information is brought forward in that area. The next increase, every year we talk about this as well. This is tied to Raymond Choice. That's, I think, one of the first tabs in your budget book that breaks it down. You can look over the years where we have either had more money that we've had to give back to the town of Raymond. That was the first few years, but in subsequent years, it's been more, it's cost us money. So the difference between, and sorry, I'm not speaking. It's back on. Good, so you didn't hear that. Let me back up. So the Raymond School Choice, you're going to see an increase in $31,000. And happy to chat about that. But essentially, the DOE sets that approved tuition rate amount every year. So RSU 14 gets that rate. Public and private schools all get their approved tuition rate. And so the difference between the rate where that student is attending, the difference between the RSU 14 rate and that rate is what Stacy tracks. And at the end of the year, she typically, if you look in recent years, then has to refund the town of Raymond if that there's that difference. And I'm not even saying it correctly. I'm sorry. All of a sudden, the cold is progressing. So we'll talk more about that if you have questions. I'll move to the next one. The Raymond Middle School debt, that is landing in this cost center. So that's a significant amount of debt that you will see, just over $8 million. So it sits in the assistant superintendent budget. We can speak to that more if you have questions. And the last one is tied to pre-K, so contracted services. As you know, this year we have 3 pre-K partners, and we have pre-K at both Wyndham Primary and Raymond Elementary School. This last year, if you remember correctly, we were able to increase that to 125 pre-K spaces. This year, we're going to try to increase, or we've projected by another 3 spaces. It's not a lot, but all of that is really dependent on what our partners feel they have the capacity to support us with and how many spaces they can and offer for our local families in Wyndham and Raymond. So we are expanding by a 4th partner in Wyndham, a Little Log Cabin Montessori. We hope that they'll be able to fill up to 12 spaces. They might not be able to, so we're going to be monitoring that closely. But that is associated with that contracted service and the cost to have those partners. That is an increase of $56,000.
Questions for Christine?
I don't know, Chris, if you can sort this out, or Christine, but I'm on page 4, pink page 4. It's major capital debt service. Understand the parent budget from last year that was approved by the voters was $3.8 million. And then we had a shortage that we have to make up for the $1.2 million this year in terms of what was budgeted. I'm having a hard time putting my finger on the debt interest piece at $6.9 million. Trying to understand just based on this and the figures that you presented around the state reimbursement versus what the local will be for our payment this year. Can you just clarify that?
Sure, I can easily walk through some debt for you. So we're looking on page 4 of 95. So again, going back to under that first debt principle showing parent budget 2026 adopted $3.8 million. That was the projected debt payment for this year, which was the budget closed before the bond actually sold. So in essence, we actually were at closer to 4.6 million ultimately when that closed. So if you'll notice for this upcoming year under debt principal, that has been bumped up to 5,035,000. And so to make up for some of that shortfall pieces, so that's the actual number. That $5 million is straight state subsidy. So money coming into the district as subsidy, money exiting the district as a payment, and that's part of the state contribution. This past year, the payment that the district had was just simple interest on that particular loan. So since year 1 was interest, year 2, which we're still paying the $105 million, the state is giving us even more money to help offset that $105 million debt payment. And so this year, I think it's close to $9 million for that 105. That's just part of the amortization schedule. In addition, in April of this year, we'll be selling another bond for $50 million. $39 million of that $50 million will belong to the local taxpayers. That was the amount that was approved back in November of 2023. The remaining $11 million will be broken down in the amortization schedule, and the district will be receiving roughly about an additional $400,000 towards their $11 million payment. That's that first interest payment. And then locally, we're projecting about a $1.6 million payment split between Wyndham and Raymond on our cost sharing formula, which works out to be about $1.2 million for Wyndham, and I'm just doing rough numbers off the top of my head, and about $300,000 for Raymond. So part of what you see there in that, with the debt payment that's there, part of that will be billed to Wyndham and Raymond. But over $10 million will actually be straight subsidy that's coming into the district, money in, money out. And if you remember last week, I think next year's subsidy allocation is a little over $27 million. That $10 million of that is just state paying for the wonderful gift that they gave us down the street at 61 Wyndham Center Road. So if that's, and also, we can give a further breakdown if that's helpful with the amortization schedule. But if you go back, year one, typically in bonds like this is all interest. Year two is when the payments start to pick up a little bit. So that's why we're getting more money from the state of Maine.
That's helpful. And I think that when we look at this line by line, it can look different at 8.9 million versus 6.9 million for that total over 8.2. Your presentation last week, for anyone watching, is very clear about what the state portion of that's going to be, what the local portion will be. And then I think Finance Committee could work through a small piece of that clarification with revenues and expenses, and then just the school debt piece of it, just for clarity. But I appreciate you going through that because there's multiple layers folded in. I didn't want there to be any confusion. It's not, you can't just extrapolate it very specifically. Right. It's a number that comes from many different places in this budget.
I think just back to the bottom line, though, would be we, again, are fortunate that the state of Maine is subsidizing a $10 million debt payment, which means that burden is not falling on the local taxpayers in Wyndham and Raymond. It's falling on taxpayers across the state of Maine and supporting them. And that also includes individuals living in districts that aren't getting a new school.
Further questions? All right, we are ready to move on to student services. Lisa, you want to come up?
So poor Christine, I have had this cold 9 weeks, and I think we spent too much time together, and I gave it to her. But thank you very much for having me. I'm Lisa Garno. For those that are watching, I'm the Director of Student Services. And within my budget, there's special education, 504, nursing, multilingual students, McKinney-Vento, foster care, out-of-district tuition. There's a lot, everything kind of falls into my budget. So one day, I can just say, like Chris, I only have a few things, but not today. So thank you so much for having me. I think Joe alluded to it earlier. This is a tough year, as you know. We try to look to see where we might have reductions, or might be able to present a responsible budget to the taxpayers. And so what we did is really looked at some of those open positions. And so as Joe mentioned, there are several coming out of my budget. So we've had 6 ed tech positions by my count that were open for a couple of years now, kind of up and down. And so we're going to not be filling those, or proposing not to fill those for next year. I know people watching are probably going to, but we're going to be okay. So we've spent time working with building administrators and our central office team, and we're really going to be looking at building schedules and how students are grouped and really being able to use our staff that we currently have very efficiently. And I think we're going to be just fine. So within my budget, there'll be a reduction, of a little over, Stacy and I kind of estimated a little over 440,000 or somewhere in that ballpark. The other thing that we did is, for folks who don't know, I currently have or have had up until now a local entitlement grant that's all federal money, and we get between $800,000 and $900,000 a year for that. That's not in the local budget, and so there's currently one van driver that we are able to pay that salary out of local entitlement, so we're going to move that out of the local budget as well. And then the other area is really pre-K. So as we move to expand our pre-K program, I think the board, we had talked about expanding and becoming a part of cohort 3. And so when school resumes in the fall, we will begin the process of taking on 4-year-olds. And so by doing that, working with Christine and Chris and Stacy, we've been able to set up accounts for next year that will sit outside of the local budget. And so for special ed, we will have, at least initially, that's currently in our budget, 2 special ed teachers and 2 ed techs, and and an early childhood coordinator. We're going to move those to this preschool grant, and that will be, we have to, hold those in that like 2,300 account, but the money will be a direct reimbursement from the state. So that's another $400,000+. So we're coming in a little over 900, or in that ballpark of 900,000 out of my budget. That said, there's still an increase that I have no control over. That is salaries and benefits. So that's really where we are. We, don't anticipate, changing any program offerings. We're, really excited about pre-K coming on board. We have really expanded our RISE program, which helps our students with behavioral challenges. We have the Bridges program, which helps our students that are more life skills, and we still are in the community. And if anybody saw the unified basketball game today, it was really exciting, and just the camaraderie. So I'm not anticipating changing anything. So I don't know if anybody has any questions.
So can you, thank you.
I'm sorry. I think that all the additional programming that we do in this district is amazing. It really is, and it's been doing it for a long time, and it just gets better and better. But it really gives most kids a place to be.
Oh, thank you.
They wouldn't be here, So I thank you for continuing all that.
Grace, was your hand up? Oh, sorry, Marge. Go ahead.
Just for clarification, I know you said a lot of them are positions that just weren't filled. Have you retitled some staff? Is some of the?
So if you look at my sort of staff numbers, Margie, there's most of it's in ed tech. So I have 3 categories that go to the total number of ed techs. So we have ed tech 2s, ed tech 3s, and then parapros, which are the ed tech 1s. And so we're down to just 1 ed tech 1. The other 2 people have retired. And so just for transparency, because they are not eligible for Maine State retirement, they get Social Security that's paid for out of local entitlement. So that one position. But then the other ones are the 2s and 3s. Those are just the open positions that we've held in the local budget. There is a position with the one person who's retiring, and we're going to be looking at that through pre-K.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, I really don't have any questions. It's more just comments and reflection. I will share, and I shared this with you in our last discussion, that when I heard about reductions in special ed and student services, given the increase in demand, which is objectively growing substantially year over year, I was certainly nervous to see that. Certainly gained a lot of comfort knowing those positions were unfilled. I really just want to offer appreciation, I guess, share that I'm super impressed about the ability of you and your team to surround not only this tough economic reality, but also taking on quite a bit more that's been imposed upon us sounds too strong, but has been a directive of the state to really expand the services. And it's kind of that question: if not us, then who? And with the enthusiasm and just get it done attitude that's been approached with has been nothing short of inspiring to me. Certainly, my concern will always be: are we resourcing our special ed students enough and to the right level? And I think we should always be reflecting on that. But I think this is a responsible budget that's put forward. And again, thank you. Great work to you and your team.
Yeah,
Appreciate
and I really am. I appreciate you saying that, Joe. And I'm really excited because I have been doing this for a long time, 30 years. And as we look towards taking on the 4-year-olds, anybody who's been in special ed administration for any length of time, we just kept hearing that CDS kids weren't getting their service. And it wasn't because they didn't have great people and they didn't have great leaders. It's just was difficult to find providers. And so my hope is that now we're getting them at 4. We'll have less children identified with disabilities because we'll be able to start meeting their needs earlier. And if they do need it, we can hopefully, meet their needs and then dismiss them so they can be on their way, without that label. So I'm really excited about it and appreciate the board supporting us to take on the 4-year-olds this year.
My only question, I see we're up to 9 social workers now. I know over the years we've tried to add some in response to needs. I'm just curious if you know what buildings those will be placed in next year.
Yeah, and so for next year, there really won't be a change. I currently have full-time social work at Raymond Elementary, Jordan Small. We have 2 at Wyndham Primary. We have 1 at Manchester School. We have 1 at Wyndham Middle School, and we have 2 permanent at Wyndham High School. And then we have one of our high school social workers that helps. She helps at the middle schools as well. So she does some counseling, substance counseling and things at our middle schools. And then I have a social worker at the Katahdin program. So evenly distributed. And then when the middle schools come together, just because of the volume, we'll need to have 2 social workers at the middle school.
Sure. Great. Thank you.
You're welcome.
And I think you're all set.
Thank you.
Appreciate it. Our last cost center presentation of the evening will be by Mrs. Christine Hessler, Director of Curriculum Instruction and Assessment.
Good evening. Thank you for having me tonight. Hopefully I can, be the cleanup batter for you in all world of budget today. If I'm taking a look at my budget, for those that don't know me, again, I'm Christine Hessler, Director of Curriculum Instruction and Assessment, and we joke sometimes that my budget is kind of the catch-all. If we can't fit it somewhere, we'll put it under curriculum because we can figure it out. This year, I come to you with a couple of things to talk about. Number one is a decrease in a position through reallocation. At Jordan Small Middle School, we will use that position to supplement the BAR program. I know you've heard a lot about BAR from everybody. So instead of adding a new position, we are reallocating so that we continue that work and actually have it systemically across both middle schools. We're really excited to offer that to all of those buildings a year ahead of coming together in the new building. The other piece is I am decreasing my textbook budget line. Looking back at trends that we had funds left over. We feel with the decrease of $57,000 across all the schools, we will still meet all of our needs. I'm very fortunate. Stacy Webster, God love that woman, but every time I come over and say, hey, there's a grant we can apply for, we do the training, we do the work, and then we're gifted $4,000 of literacy stuff. So we're really working year round to take advantage of anything that's out there, not only to train our staff, but to also provide those instructional materials for our staff. So we've looked, over the textbook piece, and we feel we can do this without hindering any of how we operate in all of our schools. I do have an increase, and that is in the professional development line. Again, that is tied to the BAR training. I know that you'll be hearing more information from the state for possible funding, but in order for us to keep the level of BAR that we want to do in this district, we've put it under here, and that will facilitate and have all of the coaching and all of the professional development to continue the BAR work that we're doing across the RSU. I'm happy to answer any question. There isn't anything else real exciting.
I know that we have, we started bar at the high school in a pilot group, and we're sort of rolling it out throughout the district. So that this year, assuming we have to spend this amount locally, what do the following years look like? Is this an ongoing cost? Is this something that tapers off over time?
I believe it's something we're going to be able to taper off over time. Once we have the coaching in place, and that takes multiple years, then we're able to run these pieces on our own. Again, BAR is a big organization. We would love to have more gifting from the state and get more funding. But I think all of you have heard the power and the effects on our students and families through this program. And the professional development is top notch. It literally is changing the way our staff are looking at data and looking at students and communicating with families and meeting their needs. It's all hands on deck. It's really incredible to watch.
That's my only question, Joe.
Yeah, again, more statement than question. One of the things I noticed is that there's an increase in spend on bars we talked about of about $151,000, but overall your budget's increasing about $136,000. And I think what that speaks to is, again, just tremendous fiscal responsibility and making sure that we're investing in the right places, but saving where we can to minimize tax impact, which I think is huge. I'm not sure I need to say this to my fellow board colleagues, but I'll say it anyway. More importantly, I'll say it to the public. This investment in BAR is a no-brainer. This program through our schools has yielded such impressive data and outcomes, and is really, again, objectively improving the experience, performance of our students. And I think anytime we can have an investment with that kind of return, we should put it forward and support it as a community. So I just want to share that piece. Thank you so much.
Anyone else? All right, we're all set. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Okay, we are ready to move on to policies. May I have a motion, please?
I move to approve the second reading of policy EBAA, chemical hygiene and hazardous materials.
Second.
Public comment or discussion? All those in favor? Okay, motion carries. Next policy, please.
I move to approve the second reading of policy ECB, pest management in school facilities and on school grounds.
Second.
Public comment for discussion? All those in favor? Motion carries. Last item, adjournment.
I move to adjourn the regular meeting.
Second.
All those in favor? All right, we are adjourned. We will meet again on March 11th at 6:30 in this room.